Wait a second, because this is where the entire success saga starts getting very awkward. The Sandringham Agreement is still sitting on the official royal website, available for anyone to read right now. It has been there since January 2020, and its wording is remarkably straightforward. The Sussexes would not use their HRH titles. Not publicly, not commercially, not under any circumstances. That was the agreement. Both sides signed it. The late Queen approved it. Fast forward 5 years, and those famous words, "Your Royal Highness," have surfaced on Meghan Markle's Instagram, on a gift basket sent to a podcast host, and even on camera on Netflix in Meghan's own voice. That is not tabloid gossip. Those are 3 documented incidents on platforms covered by that original agreement. And according to a source close to Prince William, who spoke on the record to the Daily Beast, the story may be far from over. So what happens when William becomes king? Tonight, we are breaking down everything. Not the rumor-filled version, but the legal and financial one. The Sandringham Agreement and what it actually says, the 3 alleged violations, each more controversial than the last, the collapse of $120 million in major industry deals, 18 staff departures, the origin story Vanity Fair could not verify and Meghan's own father described as embellished, plus the letters patent that could ultimately determine what the Sussex brand is really built on and what happens if that foundation disappears. And trust me, none of the rest makes sense.
Harry and Meghan Markle split from the royal family. They'll formally step down as senior royals March 31st.
January 2020. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry sit down with the late Queen Elizabeth at Sandringham and hammer out the terms of their royal exit. The agreement is documented, signed, and published on the official royal website, where it remains today. The conditions are crystal clear. The Sussexes will not use their HRH titles. Not publicly, not commercially, not under any circumstances. That was the bargain. In exchange, they keep the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles. They walk away with their dignity preserved and their future entirely in their own hands. That was the arrangement. It was put in writing. Both sides signed on the dotted line.
When they brought in Meghan Markle and her husband, what did they do? Like a $20 million deal? And so now they're...
Then came April 2025, and suddenly the controversy was back in the spotlight. Meghan Markle opened Instagram and shared a letter from Ukraine's vice president completely unedited. No disclaimer explaining that the diplomatic greeting was merely a courtesy. No note clarifying the title used by the sender. Just the full letter for millions to see. And right at the top were the words, "Your Royal Highness," displayed on a commercial social media platform for the world to read. A source close to Prince William did not hold back when speaking to the Daily Beast. "You'd have to be an idiot to believe she didn't know exactly what she was doing when she posted that message unedited to her stories." Another source was equally blunt. "Every time you think they can't make it worse, they make it worse." According to critics, the HRH arrangement was supposed to allow the couple to step away with dignity. Now, they argue, the very title tied to that agreement is being dragged back into the spotlight, while jars of jam are being sold under the Sussex brand.
The commercial to people all over America, and it's funny to look back at it now.
But that Instagram post was only the beginning. If Palace Insider is connecting the dots other channels ignore, make sure you hit like and stay with us, because the story gets even more interesting from here. Around the same period, podcast host Jamie King reportedly received a personal gift basket from Meghan Markle that used the HRH title. This was not a diplomatic letter from a foreign official following protocol. It was a personal gift tied to a commercial brand, carrying a title critics argue she had agreed in writing not to use in any capacity. Then came the Netflix footage, and for many observers, this is where the debate became much harder to dismiss. Unlike a letter or a gift basket, this was not someone else's wording. This was Meghan herself, on camera, on a global streaming platform watched by millions. During filming, when Mindy Kaling referred to her as Meghan Markle, Meghan interrupted and replied, "It's so funny that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now." Critics point to that moment as significant because it happened publicly, on record, and in her own words. It cannot be explained away as diplomatic courtesy or someone else's phrasing. The Sandringham Agreement remains on the official royal website. The Instagram post exists. The gift basket was reported. The Netflix exchange is on camera. Royal commentator Kinsey Schofield summed up the criticism bluntly, arguing that Harry and Meghan were not supposed to profit from their royal titles, yet critics believe that is exactly what has happened.
She wasn't necessarily popular when life was difficult.
Privacy expert Trevor Cook took the argument even further, suggesting that the royal family could potentially challenge the commercial use of a title that critics say was never meant to be used for business purposes. In legal circles, there is a phrase often associated with situations like this: material misrepresentation. In simple terms, it refers to a scenario where a key foundation behind a commercial arrangement later becomes legally questionable. We will come back to why that matters. But first, let's look at how the entertainment industry appears to have responded, because the numbers are difficult to ignore. If you are enjoying these deep dives, subscribe to Palace Insider and let us know in the comments which of the 3 alleged violations you believe carries the most weight. Back in 2020, Netflix reportedly signed a $100 million deal with Harry and Meghan Markle. The pitch seemed obvious: royal access, royal stories, and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex bringing a behind-the-scenes perspective on the monarchy to a global audience. For a time, the partnership appeared promising. Then March 2026 arrived, and Netflix officially ended its relationship with Archwell Productions. No dramatic press conference. No public feud. Just a quiet conclusion. According to industry insiders, the mood inside Netflix could reportedly be summed up in 4 blunt words: we're done with them.
I really liked her. I just think she's a slight social climber, I'm afraid. And when I see the way... look, at her wedding, there was only one member...
And Netflix was not the first crack in the wall. Before that came Spotify, a multi-million-dollar podcast deal that many expected would generate years of content. Instead, it produced a single season. When the partnership ended, Spotify executive Bill Simmons did not choose diplomatic language. He went on the record and called Harry and Meghan Markle frauds. Not disappointing. Not creatively incompatible. Frauds. The criticism came from inside the company itself, and that instantly turned heads. Then came April 2026. Penguin Random House, the publisher behind Harry's best-selling memoir and a company with every financial reason to maintain the relationship, reportedly allowed a $20 million book deal to expire without renewal. Sources described the situation as both sides having burned the bridge, with the publisher allegedly feeling financially burned by the gap between expectations and results. That word matters. Burned carries a very different weight than disappointed or creatively misaligned. Major publishers do not commit to huge deals without extensive research. They examine an author's reputation, track record, audience, and long-term commercial value. In 2020, Penguin Random House looked at those factors and saw enormous potential. By 2026, critics argue, the calculation had changed completely. Add everything together, and the pattern becomes difficult to ignore. A reported $100 million Netflix partnership gone. A multi-million-dollar Spotify agreement gone. A reported $20 million publishing deal gone. 3 major industry players, 3 separate sectors, and all moving in the same direction within a relatively short period. Critics say that is more than a temporary setback. It is a verdict. And in their view, every one of those deals rested on the same foundation: the Sussex name, the royal connection, and the Duchess brand. That was the attraction. That was the value proposition. Remove the title permanently, officially, and legally, and supporters of this argument believe the commercial logic behind those deals does not simply weaken. It disappears entirely.
It actually opens the door also to when William becomes king, quite reasonably stripping Harry of his title.
So what is left if the royal connection loses its shine? Critics argue it becomes a lifestyle brand with a new label, selling products at prices that only seemed justified when the person behind them carried the title Duchess of Sussex. But to understand why this debate matters, we have to go back long before the streaming deals, publishing contracts, and celebrity partnerships. We have to go back to the story that helped build Meghan Markle's public image in the first place. For more than 2 decades, Meghan has shared the same origin story. At 11 years old, she saw a Procter & Gamble commercial suggesting that women across America were responsible for fighting greasy pots and pans. According to her account, she was outraged. So she wrote letters to Procter and Gamble, to politicians, and even to Hillary Clinton. Meghan has long maintained that the campaign worked. The commercial was changed, and she has also claimed that Hillary Clinton personally responded. Over the years, she repeated that story at the United Nations, at the One Young World Summit, in interviews, and again during a visit to Colombia in 2024. It became a defining part of her public identity, the young girl who challenged a corporation and won. But critics point to a major complication. When Vanity Fair reportedly attempted to verify the story, fact-checkers contacted Procter and Gamble and consulted advertising historians. According to the claims highlighted in this narrative, they were unable to find evidence supporting key parts of the account. They reportedly found no record of a personal reply from Hillary Clinton and no independent confirmation that such a letter existed. Then came comments from Meghan's father, Thomas Markle. In a 2020 documentary, he suggested that Meghan had participated in a broader school letter-writing project and that the story of her personally changing the advertisement may have been somewhat embellished over time. Critics seized on those remarks, arguing that the narrative sounded less like a lone activist changing corporate America and more like a classroom assignment. The controversy deepened when reports emerged that journalists working with Meghan's public relations team chose not to include the Procter and Gamble story in official media materials. Critics interpreted that decision as significant, arguing that a story once used to support her humanitarian image had become too controversial to promote without raising difficult questions.
Newspaper journalist said that William despises his brother now, so that relationship is over.
And this is where the story takes an even sharper turn. Critics argue that if the origin story at the heart of Meghan Markle's public image cannot be independently verified, it raises uncomfortable questions about everything that followed. The tale of the young activist who allegedly challenged a major corporation became a defining part of her humanitarian reputation, yet skeptics point out that Vanity Fair reportedly could not confirm key details, while Thomas Markle later suggested the story may have grown more dramatic over time. But the scrutiny does not stop there. Meghan famously told Oprah that she felt unsupported within the royal institution, presenting herself as someone who struggled behind palace walls. Critics respond with a different question. If that was the case, why were there so many departures from her own operation? Reports have highlighted 18 staff exits between 2020 and 2026, including experienced professionals who had spent years working at the highest levels of royal service. One name appears repeatedly in that discussion, Samantha Cohen. After nearly 2 decades serving the royal family, she became Meghan's private secretary. What was supposed to be a short-term transition reportedly stretched far longer than expected, and accounts surrounding replacement efforts have fueled years of speculation. Cohen later became one of several individuals interviewed during Buckingham Palace's Independent Bullying Review, an investigation commissioned during Queen Elizabeth's reign. The findings were never publicly released, but the very existence of the review continues to be cited by critics as evidence that concerns within palace circles were taken seriously. Then there is the personal side of the narrative. Former friends and associates have spoken publicly about relationships that ended abruptly. Critics often point to childhood friend Nanaki Priti, who shared decades of history with Meghan and even served as maid of honor at her first wedding. Yet by the time of the royal wedding, the friendship had reportedly vanished without explanation. Years later, Priti described Meghan as highly strategic in the way she managed relationships and social circles. Similar claims emerged regarding Jessica Mulroney, once described as one